Now, the hardest part about this was the Mary's goodbye speech, I personally think.
So emotional.
I have on record said that I do not have emotional ties to a ship. Okay, I did cry. We're sipping on spice.
And we're together and we're live and we are back to talk about more Enies Lobby.
So Luffy's small again. Something interesting that we didn't talk about in the last episode was that when Lucci was fighting Luffy, he did mention that when Luffy is in third gear, that it comes at the cost of his speed. So I think that's something that we're going to have to keep in mind as we kind of continue to see him fight and utilizing some of these gears and when it would be advantageous versus not.
I know. I'm very curious to see where more of that goes in Luffy's fighting journey. And like you said last episode, are we going to see more gears? Also, at the top of 306, we see a mermaid appear. A mermaid is referenced and a mermaid appears. And I wrote down, is this going to be like the Little Mermaid? Like a mermaid is talked about, a mermaid appears. Are we going to get into Little Mermaid lore in this episode? And I'm here for it if so.
What's funny too is that Sanji sees the mermaid as this like beautiful siren and has this whole like dream almost about her.
Yes, and I wrote down, well, in the Little Mermaid, it's a prince that she sees and saves. Prince like Sanji, Prince Eric, you know? Connection.
Oh, interesting. I didn't even think of that. Yeah.
Yes, like it's a prince that the mermaid saves in the Little Mermaid. And it's Sanji.
It's Sanji. And I think it's safe to say that we know that that is Kokoro.
She comes in clutch. Again, she saves the day. The mermaid is Kokoro. And also, remember a few episodes ago, we talk about
her being a frog?
Yes.
Yeah.
She's not a frog. Maybe there was a question mark as to what she was, but she's a mermaid.
And to your point, was her alcohol powering the mermaid?
Yes. Because I thought maybe she was a cyborg, but maybe the alcohol was more powering.
Or she's just drunk. Hard to say.
Valid. We don't know.
And to touch on your Little Mermaid lore, she says that their tails split at the age of 30 and that they can walk on land. And then she also mentions, we've seen this in our comments before. I don't know anything about it, but she mentions that when they get to Fishman Island.
We'll learn more. So is that a future arc? Like, what is that?
We have had comments alluding to Fishman Island, so I do believe it will be an arc we cross, but it'll be interesting because we will see mermaids.
I'm very excited. So is that Kokoro's family? Is that where she's from? Are there more Kokoros?
I didn't even think about that we will get like a full circle on Kokoro.
Then is Chimney part mermaid? She calls her granny.
I don't know if she's her actual grandma. I would think so because they do have similar haircut. Like, you know what I mean? Their faces are the same. Like, they do have a similar look. So I do believe they are. But again, like, would that be Tom's grandchild?
We don't get a family tree.
Question mark.
I would love to know the family tree. Is Chimney her granddaughter?
We also see here the elephant sword again. Elephant sword keeps coming out from Spondum. And Franky, like, literally just goes in front of it and takes it.
He holds it to save Robin. I wrote down here, Franky is like, you're not going to talk bad about my lady here. Like, he's like, you're not going to talk bad about Robin. You're not going to hurt Robin. I am saving her.
He's like, you're going to retract, right? But he looks at him. I do not feel like he uses power in the same way I felt like Shanks used power on the Sea King. But he does do a very similar move. Did you notice that?
He does.
And then the elephant does retract and turn back into not a sword. Now, again, I did not feel the same menacing because like Shanks was like, and Franky's was more like, you know what I mean? Like I didn't feel like the menace was the same level, but I did notice the action felt similar.
And I think ultimately Shanks is probably more powerful than Franky, we've talked about, but similar vibes.
And honestly, something that I think that's really thematic through Enies Lobby, specifically with Robin, is the way that they talk about how she should die and how like she doesn't deserve to live. And I think that particularly, like, yes, we're going to see it across the board with friendships, with right and wrong and etc. with the Straw Hats, don't get me wrong. But I do think particularly here, constant conversation about how Robin should die. She's better off dead. She's a problem. She's a demon. I think those things are really triggering, specifically for the Straw Hats, because it just inherently is wrong and against everything they kind of stand for.
Yes. And that's why they're like, I want retribution. And Franky, speaking of that, wants retribution against Spondum for what happened to Tom. And speaking of retribution against Tom, Kokoro says here in the flashback, when Franky's like thinking of all the things that's happened to him, that there's nothing they can do against the government. The government's taken Tom. There's nothing that they can do. And I wrote down, well, now there absolutely is something because they have the Straw Hats on their side.
Yes. Also, we finally have Usopp talking about himself as himself. He is still dressed as the Sniper King, but his thoughts, he refers to himself as Usopp finally. So we're starting to see, I don't want to say the breakdown of Sniper King because it's not like a sad breakdown by any means. It's not like a breakdown, but we are starting to see him exiting this character and take that strength into Usopp standard.
And Luffy is still the question mark, right? So the other Straw Hats make jokes. They're very open with, we know it's you, Usopp, but we're going to go along with this joke if it makes you happy and it's what you need to say, that you're the Sniper King to like rejoin the crew. Luffy is still question mark. He still does not accept or know or call out that it's Usopp. So he's the last remaining
Sniper King. Well, no, Chopper doesn't know either. They're both still confused about
but
the King
Chopper's
of Sniping.
Down and out after his he's been down and out.
We haven't seen him in a minute.
And he cannot move his body. Like post his monster phase is not movable, not fightable at this time.
Okay, I have started to refer to them as Frobin because I have accepted this ship into my heart. I believe at this point in time that we can say we here at Sippin' on Spice do understand that Oda does not write romantic relationships and that he's uncomfortable and that all of the stories henceforth are stories of friendship.
Yes.
However, that being said, I enjoy a good ship, and I know you do too. I am all in on the Frobin ship. How about you?
Me too. We get so many examples of why they would be a really good ship. Again, their backstories mirroring each other. And him being the one, Luffy's like, you know what? You need to go after her. You need to save her. It being poetic justice against Spondum. His whole speech in the Sea Train that her existence is not a crime.
I think he brings the perfect balance of humor and brevity that we look for in our Straw Hat characters, while also bringing the maturity that Nico Robin does. And he can sense the tone of situations. So it just seems like their interactions really flow in that way that if I were to read fan fiction, it would be centered around Frobin.
Agreed. I love it. And their ages, I think, are similar. So I feel like it's age appropriate to like this couple and read this fan fiction. He saves her. He does the arm. She falls into his arms because catches her.
Beautiful.
Well, then after this, we get the really emotional, stressful part that are the Marines actually going to fire on the rest of Galley Law, like Polly and the Franky family and Sodom and Gomorrah, because again, Buster Call's been called. So they're trying to leave the island. A question of morality, again, sliding scale of morality. Are the Marines actually going to fire on these people who are just trying to leave the island? Are they actually going to fire on these civilians, so to speak?
Oh, yeah. And they do.
They do.
They do.
I was very stressed in this.
And honestly, here's the sad part, right? So they show them running through the gates. They start firing. And then it cuts to Franky. And Franky's like, I'm certain my family is going to make it. I'm not worried about them.
Positive thinking.
And then the announcement goes over the transponder snail who's giving literally the play-by-plays of what's happening. And he says that they've been eliminated, that everybody at the front gate has been eliminated. And so we believe at this point that the shipwrights, the giants, Yokozuna, the Franky family are all dead. And you see Franky take that. And that was really hard.
Well, and he tries to not show that he's really emotional. Like he tries to take it on the chin and he tries to think positively. He says that they can survive anything. And I wrote down it is one piece, but how do you logically survive direct cannon fire? But he's trying to say they can survive anything. He's trying to have a brave face for everybody. Yeah. Nami brings it up too right here that it's odd and disturbing how casually they can talk about people just dying or people just on this transponder scale broadcasting, hey, we're going to kill these people. We did. We took out this problem. And they just casually dropped that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that is true that they were like,
Yeah.
Cannon fired him.
Yeah. And I think at this point in time, we see the Straw Hats. Like, Robin's been driving it home the whole time, but you see it across the Straw Hats. You see it almost across the Marines, too, where they finally realize, like, a buster call means everybody will be burned unless you are on a Marine ship.
Yes. And it's interesting here, too, because Luffy is still missing this fight with Lucci. Everyone else is more or less corralling around Franky and Robin, but Luffy is still separated. So then it was interesting to me that Franky says, Straw Hat, you can't die on me, because they're hoping Luffy beats Lucci. So crazy how their names are so similar, and comes and joins them. But he doesn't know that he will. And Franky shows more emotion in this moment of Luffy maybe not defeating Lucci and not joining them than he did about this terrible news that he got about the Franky family. But again, I think he was putting on a brave face. But it's interesting, he is more emotional and talks more about Luffy needing to make it back to them so that they can save Robin, so that they can leave, they can complete their mission, they can sail on. Again, no ship. But Franky has more to say about Luffy than the Franky family.
The other thing I think that outside of just like taking it in stride, I think the most important thing here is that Franky is a leader. He has had the experience of being a leader with the Franky family. So in my opinion, what we're seeing here, he knows that right now his objective is to save Robin. His objective is to get Luffy on that ship and all of that. So I think that, yes, that's where his emphasis is, but I also think that he identifies that like that is all he can do. He is still in the thick of it, and he can either get emotional about what's potentially happening, or he can say, no, they're fine. Everything's going to be fine. I have faith in my people, in my crew almost. But, you know, my mission is still incomplete. So I think it's also coming from a pure leadership standpoint. I just do find that Franky and Luffy tend to be leadership mirrors of each other. I think we're seeing a lot of parallels between Franky and the Franky family and how he leads them, and Luffy and how he leads the Straw Hats, which I think is very important.
I agree. Franky has helped them a lot, so that'll be very interesting. And Franky accepted Luffy's leadership back with the fight with Lucci. You know, go save Robin. Franky seems to accept Luffy's leadership, so that's a really interesting point. We've talked a little bit about this. I feel like the Lucci and Luffy fight is really the fight of good versus evil. Pure good, or if we want to say chaotic good with Luffy, because follows his own moral compass, not necessarily the rules of the law. And then also a true evil, chaotic evil of Lucci. I feel like we're really setting this up, and that's why it's this huge battle. Chopper makes a remark of Luffy always knows who he has to fight to win the fight. And Nami remarks that Chopper's an animal, but Luffy is also like an animal, and he has these really sharp instincts of knowing who to fight.
I love that you wrote this because I wrote this down too. And my thought around this was actually back to, and I can't even remember what arc it was in, so I apologize. But there is a point where somebody compares him to a monkey. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
Yes. They compare Luffy to a monkey in a prior arc. And we said, oh, that's very on the nose because he is Monkey D. Luffy, right? A little on the nose. But my thought was, this is the second time we're calling back to a particular animal, right? And I'm wondering, is there more to this animal comment? Because it just seems interesting that it's been brought up again.
Yes. Is there more to Luffy, the devil fruit, the whole dynamic? Because, and she says his instincts are even sharper than Chopper's as an animal.
Right. Then we've also talked a lot about his gut and his gut instinct.
His intuition.
So there's, you know, I'm having a hard time throwing away the animal comment just because, again, I just remember that monkey comment being so on the nose with his name. I don't know if it was a nod to the name or not. But then again, to be compared specifically to animal-like instincts here, I thought was very interesting. Something else I want to call out here is Luffy compares Lucci's secret power to the reject dials on Skypiea. Interesting, again, because we've accepted dials, right? So it's interesting to have Luffy refer to the 6 powers, because it's the secret power. It's the secret one that they weren't supposed to tell us, to that reject dial.
Are there higher levels of powers. Where do some of these powers come from? We have characters like Zoro that go through the steps to personally power up, but then you have like these dials, which are very important for Usopp. Usopp has this component of making weapons. Where does this technology come from? I feel like as we move through more arcs, we are going to learn and explore more powers.
If you want to hear this ad-free, early, and the extended version, feel free to check out our Patreon.
And if you're new here, don't forget to like and subscribe. So Luffy's over here still fighting Lucci. This fight goes on. It's a difficult fight for Luffy. The Straw Hats are cheering on Luffy, and that's almost his powering up to like fuel him to fight harder and keep going. Luffy's love of the Straw Hats and his friends almost doubles as like this, like they're cheering him on. He hears them. He's down and out. He's just been beaten up by Lucci, but that like reinvigorates him to keep going. And I also think that's not nothing. Like Luffy's love of the Straw Hats fuels him almost literally.
Yeah. And I also have this note, but I have it slightly different. I had also that the crew yelling to him that they made it to the bridge, that it was like such happy chills because it's like, they're literally telling him, like, we did it. We've done it. All we need is for you to close the deal here and, like, we can go. And I just thought that that was so beautiful as well.
Such, again, chills. So many emotionally impact. Enies Lobby is just amazing. In Luffy and Lucci's fight, Lucci says he will not allow any evil to prosper in the world. And that's why he wants to fight Luffy so hard.
Babe, it's you.
Right? Like, Lucci, you're the evil one.
I fear you need a mirror and you should fight it.
Yes, exactly. Like he is someone who, Lucci is someone who uses his powers for evil.
Yeah.
And again, malicious compliance follows the rules without believing the ideology for the opportunity to cause bloodshed and be evil. Luffy is good for good's sake. He has his own rules, but he's good for good's sake. So for Lucci to say that was like, and what's crazy about this is I don't even believe that Lucci is in the propaganda of the Marines. I don't even know that Lucci believes what they're saying.
No, he doesn't care. No, he just wants justification to do what he wants to do.
Exactly. So this is a very interesting dynamic in the fight because you have like someone who cares about the good and saving his friend and the overall pursuit of freedom and the truth versus someone who's just evil. They don't care about anything else.
I agree. Here, Sanji disappears, and I thought, he's got a plan. And we see it come out later, but I was like, every time he disappears, you're like, you've got something.
What's she doing, Sanji?
My guy.
What's she doing?
You've got an idea. And we finally get into some of this fighting, and Nami running out with her thunder move, like her and Robin fighting back to back in these scenes were so cool of like, how they teamed up, how they backed each other up, and how far Nami has come that she's not worried about fighting one-on-one. She's literally taking out like groups of Marines at a time with this.
She's leveling up. This whole arc, Usopp is leveled up as Sniper King, taking out the people to save Robin. Sanji's leveled up with his Diablo kick. Franky, we see, has all these powers. Nami has leveled up with her capability of using her weapon. Luffy, second and third gear, we learn of both of them in this arc. Enies Lobby
Zoro takes on the demon.
Yes. Well, he has the demon power.
Yeah.
Enies Lobby is like the leveling up arc.
Yes, absolutely. By a lot. We have Luffy fight against Lucci, and it was so emotional to watch Usopp yelling at him and telling him he needs to get up. Because this is the first time we've truly seen Luffy like down. Like no matter how much his crew, because you just talked about it a second ago, right? His crew's encouraging him and it causes him to level up. It causes him to be able to do these things, but he physically cannot get up after this fight.
This really shows, I think, Usopp's growth and his changing as a character, maybe, let's say. So Usopp lies in this fight while Luffy is down and out and yells at Lucci and says, if you mess with Robin, you mess with me. He's provoking Lucci to fight Usopp. And he's saying, I'm going to take you now. Like, I'm this Sniper King. Again.
Terrified, too. Such a big play to be like in his, because he's like shaking and he's like, I'm your opponent.
Yes. And he says he's got that army of 8,000 men again.
He has said it. I meant to mention it a couple episodes ago. He has probably said it 3 to 4 times throughout the Enies Lobby arc specifically. He mentions it in at 296. He mentions it again earlier in Enies Lobby, and he says it again here. So I think it's so interesting because it's been brought up 3 to 4 times in Enies Lobby specifically.
So I feel like that's ramping up. It's being mentioned more frequently. Are we going to get more
Yeah.
information on Usopp's army? But he did that to distract Luffy, and it's to egg Luffy on. Lucci is like, I've won this fight. Straw Hat, you're down and out. I'm the victor. And then Usopp does his speech like, Lucci, now you fight me. I've got this army of 8,000 men. I'm this famous Sniper King. And Usopp says that to Lucci to egg Luffy on, to get him to fight, to get him to stand up and fight. Because Usopp knows that if Lucci were to go attack Usopp and take him up on it, Luffy would have to defend Usopp. He would have, because that's who Luffy is. So Usopp knows that. And then Luffy's even like, get out of here, Usopp. What are you doing? You're dumb. Like, this guy's going to annihilate you.
Yeah.
Because Luffy is struggling with Lucci. So Lucci would just KO Usopp. But Usopp did it to get Luffy to act and to provoke Luffy. He's provoking Lucci to fight him, but his goal was to get Luffy to stand back up and continue to the fight. Because again, it looks like Lucci won. Because Luffy's on the ground and Lucci's fine. Usopp does this, and then Luffy, again, this is just a beautiful moment when Usopp says that and tries to take the fight to him. And he even says like, he brings up the captain comment again, which is a call back to Water 7. But Luffy then stands up and is like, no, I need to fight Lucci because this is my fight and you cannot fight Usopp. And I thought that was beautiful. Usopp knew that Luffy needed that to keep fighting. And that is the catalyst to push Luffy to find the strength to fully defeat Lucci. Which, again, Luffy and Lucci, the names, way too close. And this is the reunion between Usopp and Luffy. It's so sweet and full circle that this is their reunion. Like, this is, you know what I mean? Like, I loved the way this was done.
What I thought was really amazing here is Luffy gets up and he says he's not going to hit the floor again. Mm-hmm. And I thought as he gets hit and him staying up and like wobbling and stuff, him not hitting the floor was such an interesting perspective to his character because one, of course, like the power level, 2, to have come up from where he came up from. But 3, I think it says so much about Luffy's character and like the full circle of if he says it, it's going to be done. Yes. The manifestation of it all. And I thought that that was very interesting while also being like epic as.
I loved it. I agree with you. Back to your point, Sanji was looking for a lever, which is important.
He stumbles upon the lever room is what I see. So he stumbles upon the lever room and I'm like, what is this lever for? This seems important. This seems like because he just like lights the cig and he's like, excellent.
The lever means something. The lever means something.
A plan.
Yes, a plan. And then we meet, this is a very interesting devil fruit character. I just think, in the grand scheme of all of this, is specifically against Zoro. Again, they all meet their nemesis of who is a good fight against them. Someone with the rust fruit that can rust the sword. So by and large, when we talk about fighting in One Piece, if someone has the rust fruit, your sword's irrelevant. Like, Zoro.
He literally breaks a sword. So Zoro's down to 2 swords, too. I think that's interesting.
Yes.
Are we going to get a new sword?
His power up.
Will Nami give him money to get a new sword?
Will Usopp make one? Will he get it? Like, will this be a manifestation of the Asura power? Like, so many questions for Zoro. So many future questions. And then at the end of 309, Lucci is finally defeated. Usopp's encouragement, knowing what to say to Luffy. Finally, this epic battle of ultimate good versus ultimate evil. Luffy is the winner.
But he cannot get up off the floor.
Yes.
He physically cannot move. And I think that's important because he has to get across because the Marines have now shot down the bridge. So essentially they are on this like individual space. They're burning the ship down that they were going to escape on because they now know that they were planning to escape. And they're cornered here. And Luffy has to get over. And the only way at this point is to use his power to essentially shoot over. And he cannot get off of the floor.
know. And I thought it was really interesting here because Nico Robin is with the rest of the Straw Hats, and there's a limit to the distance of her devil fruit power because she can bring him.
Yes.
She can only drop him into the sea due to distance. So interesting. We learned there's a distance element to how far she can use her powers.
Yes, because before, if I recall, we thought as long as she could see it, she could do it. And so now that's not completely true. It's got to be within a certain distance level, which is interesting.
I know. I'm very curious to see where the rest of that goes.
And then we also find out that the Franky family lives. They show up. They're chilling.
Yes!
Everybody's alive. And Franky's like, oh, thank God. And you see him break down and finally be able to accept the emotions he went through prior, because it's kind of like, one, their mission is almost over because they're all almost together. We just need to get Luffy back with us. And then now also the Franky family is alive.
Oh, I teared up watching this because I was so stressed about the Franky family and the rest of Galley Law, like Polly. I was so happy they were okay and they were alive. Like, I was like, how does one survive direct cannon fire?
Apparently two giants.
Apparently two giants. And I thought it was cute. It's through the transponder snail. Like they're calling and they hear him on them on the snail. I just thought I did tear up.
It really wove its way in through this whole thing to keep them all together, right? That initial Kokoro saying, don't hang up. I want to listen.
Yes. Yes. And it's one of the most emotionally rewarding arcs we've seen so far.
Absolutely.
Because just the full circle, Luffy finally beating Lucci, everyone being safe, Galley Law and the Franky family surviving, like they're all working together. Just one of the most emotionally rewarding arcs. I loved it.
And I think we have to talk about the big thing that happens here, which is the Klabautermann.
Yes. Yes. Oh, are you ready to talk about the emotional devastation of the Going Merry?
I am, because you and I have been saying since we pretty much got to Enies Lobby, like, the Merry's going to show up. Like, we knew it was going to happen, but the way that it happened, and with the Klabautermann showing up, what was interesting in this moment, right, is that this is the first time outside of Usopp the entire crew hears it. And what was so cool here is, like, it shows all of the different crew members in their locations hearing the Klabautermann and being like, what's that? And them all kind of having this personal tie to the Klabautermann that really gave it the full, like, circle. Because up until this point, it really was Usopp only.
Yes. Yeah. So this is really cool that they're all starting to hear it. And, like, the Klabautermann's voice is just so cute and so sweet. And, like, it is so emotional because then they do this whole jumping into the sea moment because they hear the Klabautermann. They translate that it's look below. So their means of escape is gone. So they hear this message of look below. They don't see anything. And then it's like this beautiful trust fall of everyone again fall into the ocean and hope it all works out for you. And they don't
especially as some of them are devil fruit users, so, like, good luck.
And can't swim. Exactly, good luck. Exactly. And I wrote down Robin is so posh and beautiful while she's falling. She's like, and then we hear the Klabautermann say, let's go back everyone to the sea of adventure. Like, let's have this killed me. This was so emotional, just emotionally rewarding, just so beautiful. And we have talked about this, like you said, that the Merry was going to come back for them. And the Klabautermann says, I came to get you, and let's go back and have more adventures.
Yes.
So beautiful.
Something I want to call out as we start to move back into the crew, moving away now on the Merry and kind of what's happening here. You see the Merry in comparison to the military ships.
Much smaller.
And I think that's so important, right? Because we've seen a Buster Call now. It is significantly smaller. Like, beep and boop. And I think that's something important we need to think about as we move into our next ship, whatever it may be. I think it is important that the Merry was so significantly smaller, even as we start to roll up on Galley Law's ship. Like, the Merry is tiny in comparison to these other ships. So are we going to get a much bigger ship? Like, how are we going to, again, because I'm going to say we declared war on the government. So we have to be able to fight better. And I don't think that we can walk into a ship the same size as the Merry that we've come to know.
Oh, I agree. They're going to need more. Well, that's why I wrote down Franky he's literally a weapon. He literally has cannons. Franky
It's
literally
not
has
enough,
cannons.
though. If you look at Franky next to, do you think he could have shoulder
No.
cannoned one of those ships? No. And that's more my point, is this is now going to be common because now
they're wanted.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they've been wanted the whole time, right? They've been wanted, but this is more like now they are, with a declaration of war that clear, I would say that they're now actually being pursued by the military versus passively.
I think you're right. I think whatever next ship they have has to be bigger and more on par with Navy ships. We also see here at the top of 311, Sanji's plan play out. Why we got the moment of him and the lever. Sanji, again, man with the plan. So we have the Mary and the Klabautermann show up for them to all beautifully, emotionally jump down onto to sail them away to go on more adventures. But then we also have Sanji's plan to kind of take care of the Marines that are there. Like, again, the Mary showed up to sail them away, but what's going to happen to the Marines? They're still there.
Right.
So Sanji's plan is that they will get stuck in the whirlpools.
Yes.
Because he pulled the lever of the gates.
Yes. So he essentially closes the gates of justice to open those whirlpools. I thought that was brilliant. What happens is those cannons start firing, but they're not hitting anything. And Spondam's like, I assume that meant that, oh, he messed with the cannon path. And then when they start to explain, like, no, the gates of justice open out or closed, I was like, ooh, gotcha. Gotcha at your own game on your own turf.
Gotcha is right. Yes. Like, how is Spondam still alive? How is he still breathing? And then Robin does get him.
Breaks his back.
And we
like
see
a little
vividly.
jerky. Oh yeah, they show, and I was like,
Finally, not enough.
It's not enough.
Well,
I feel like he's gonna come back in a wheelchair, dude.
I feel like if we see Spondam again, I'm gonna be pissed. We talk about seeing people again in One Piece, right? Like, I think we'll see Khalifa again. I do not want to see Spondam again.
I do not want to, but I do not feel like, I don't know. Maybe.
You think we will?
Maybe that was a true death, but I'm like,
I mean, the back was snapped.
Was it
looked
dark
like his
enough for
spine
me?
was severed.
It was.
Yeah.
But like, we've seen people survive 80 shots.
Direct cannon fire.
Yeah, direct
cannon fire.
So you could see how I could see him rolling in a wheelchair being like, you guys, I've got a new buster call.
Right. Oh, God. Whatever we need to do to remove Spondam. Whatever we need to do to remove Spondam, that's what I want. So Franky does his air attack again, like his air up. And then we see the Mary flying again. And it's also the return of Luffy's laugh, because we haven't heard Luffy's laugh in a long time because it's been real serious. And it's so sweet to see the Mary, because again, even Usopp says, like, she's flied before, she can make it. Like, Usopp,
oh yeah,
is still holding on to the Mary's come back, and this might be the thing. This is the closure Usopp needed, though.
Yeah. This is where, well, and the crew really, outside of just like evacuating the ship, didn't get a clean goodbye because the real emphasis was around Usopp and Luffy fighting and not really about the Marianne saying goodbye to it. What was interesting here too is, so then we show Kuzan during this whole retreat, right? Because we're all getting away. And I believe it was Sengoku, right? Who tells him to keep going and to essentially eliminate the threat. And he says that they've been defeated and that essentially to know when to withdraw.
And not to send reinforcements, like to call it a day. Don't send reinforcements.
That they got their ass handed them on their own turf.
It's very interesting, isn't it? Because we see Kuzan save baby Nico Robin as a kid. But then we see him be evil and him freeze her. And also tell her, I'm not your ally. If you don't keep a low profile, I'm coming for you. And to be complicit and relaxed in the face of everybody dying via a buster call. And then we see him be there and say, we're beat. Let's let it go. He's fascinating.
It's really interesting. Yeah. He is definitely the most complex version of right and wrong that we have seen. And it will be interesting to see how his character evolves, for sure, in my opinion.
We're watching him. I agree with you. You and I are watching Kuzan. We're like, where does Kuzan's story go? We are locked in. I really think that while Kuzan drank the Kool-Aid, he's in on the military propaganda. But I also think there's a large part of Kuzan that wants to find more information is curious, has his own agenda. I really think there's more to Kuzan's character.
I do not believe he drank the military Kool-Aid.
In the sense, in the sense that that's the external vibe he gives, because I do think he is curious and has his own agenda.
I think he has his own agenda. I think he has his own sense of justice. But especially from what we saw way back on Long Ring, Long Land, he was mentioned as being lazy and not taking his job very seriously. I am hesitant to believe that he actually buys in from a military standpoint so much as he enjoys the power it gives him at this point in time.
I think that Kuzan enjoys the power that it gives him. I think he has his own potential pursuit of the truth, his own agenda. But for appearances, he's bought in on the military Kool-Aid. Another question in this whole conversation, how does one become a vice admiral? He had to go along to get along to be promoted to this level. Like, he didn't become vice admiral in a vacuum.
No.
You know what I mean? Like,
but you have characters like Smoker who hold authority, who still have their own sense of justice. I think that we're going to constantly see everybody has their own form of justice. Now, I don't think that Kuzan has a problem with executing certain things on behalf of the government. But that does not mean I believe that he believes in it.
I think he's outwardly drank the Kool-Aid, and he has to be a member of the Marines. I would assume you started from somewhere. You have to have some investment in the overall Marine core message and mission to even begin to be involved in the Marines. Do I think, again, he is searching for the truth? He has his own agenda. We don't know what his morality scale is because he does one thing, he does another. The elders say he doesn't take his job seriously enough. I think Kuzan's a fascinating character, and his quote carries through the entire One Piece story of a man's own sense of justice can drive him to madness. We see that in Lucci. Arguably, we could say we see that in Saul, because Kuzan considers Saul's actions to be madness. Again, it's all subjective. We could say that about Luffy. Luffy's own sense of justice drives him to madness, maybe. I think Kuzan's sentence in quote there is going to carry all through One Piece. But it's all internal justices.
So back to the Marys. Now we're about to say goodbye.
I know.
And we see that Iceberg fixed the Mary right before Agua Laguna hit, and he heard the Klabautermann.
I loved this. I thought this was a beautiful full circle on Iceberg because he has the contract to work on marine ships, famous shipwright. I thought it was a beautiful full circle that it is Iceberg that hears the Klabautermann, fix the Mary, and helps the Mary be on its way into Agua Laguna and to ultimately come save the Straw Hats.
Absolutely.
And I think the Klabautermann's been chilling there for a minute, coming to save them, because I think in the tunnel, the sound Usopp hears is the Klabautermann.
Yeah, you can definitely tell in the voice, because there's the first part where I went, oh, that's the Klabautermann, and then Kokoro picks them up, and I thought, oh, I misunderstood. And then when she comes full circle, I was like, oh, maybe I didn't.
It's very interesting here, too, because Iceberg was all, like, stickler for the rules, and he makes peace with Nico Robin as well, because he even says, like, you took on the world government and you won. He, like, nods as though he's approving, and he says, like, it's funny how things work out, that Franky is the one that saved Nico Robin. So he makes peace with Nico Robin as well. Well, his idea of her.
And I have the goodbye to Mary.
Very sad.
The Mary is up next to Galley Law, and it just literally shatters in half, and they have to exit the ship. And I think that they thought they were home free for a minute.
Yeah.
And this is finally like the no, it's time to say goodbye. Now, the hardest part about this was the Mary's goodbye speech, I personally think.
Yes, I just wanted to carry you a little bit longer. I just wanted to have a few more adventures.
It kind of reminds me of, like, this is so dark. It kind of reminds me of when people say they don't want to die, even though that they're at their end. It was almost like the Mary, like, while in a positive light, saying that she wasn't ready to die, but like it was time. And I had a really hard time with this emotionally.
So emotional.
I have on record said that I do not have emotional ties to a ship. And
Were you proven wrong?
Someone commented, I will remember this. And I wrote as my last note, it is specifically for that person. Okay, I did cry. You were right. I cried. I have eaten my own words. It has come full circle. I have been moved by a ship. I do have those kinds of emotions for a ship, it seems.
It was beautiful. It was so. And then they all do their flashbacks of their personal connection to the Mary.
Oh, yeah.
Their journey on the Mary. Beautiful. And then they give it such a send off. They burn the Mary to close the chapter. And the embers look like snow. And I wrote down, it kind of reminds me of cherry blossoms in the air as well.
Oh, yeah.
And then I also wrote down, Usopp really needed this. Well, he needed to be the Sniper King, the sniper, to save Robin, to come back and have his place in the crew. But Usopp really needed the closure of the Mary. Because also, before he was fighting it, in this, he agrees with it. He's like, yep. He accepts. He's made closure. And that's through Franky's leadership. Imagine if Franky had been there back with the fight with Luffy and given that empathy and that piece of information to Usopp, the fight would have not escalated the way that it did. Because Usopp now is at a place where he's at the acceptance stage of grief, and he accepts that she had a wonderful life as a ship. He tried his hardest to fix her. The Mary wanted more adventures. It carried him as far as they could. But now it's time to let that go. And Luffy is the one bawling and screaming at the Mary and not accepting it. So I thought that was a very interesting
for how he failed her.
Apologize. Oh, so sad. Yes. So I thought that was a beautiful full circle moment of Usopp versus Luffy in the fight that started all of this. Usopp's acceptance, that closure, his coming back to the crew, Luffy being able to, because we talked about this, before he made that decision as a leader, he maybe didn't want to make the decision, and so he couldn't really show his emotions around it. Now he's fully being emotionally open and sharing like how much this is affecting him. And it was just beautiful.
Something I can't stop thinking about too is with this all coming full circle, right? Are they going back to Water 7 right now?
Where are they going to go? Where are they sailing? I'm assuming.
Because they're on Galilaw's ship. They don't have their own ship. They had Kokoro, Chimney, so they couldn't just like leave either way, even if the Mary had been fine. So I'm presuming they have to go back to Water 7, and they have Franky. So they have to drop everybody off at the very least. And then they also have to get a ship.
Yeah. How are they going to sail? We'll find out. They are shipless.
So I'm wondering, like, do you think they're going back to Water 7? I think they have to.
I feel like, because again, we both agree Franky makes them their next ship as a shipwright.
Yes.
Maybe with Iceberg's help now was this full circle moment of Iceberg.
Yeah.
But they got to go back to Water 7 to get it, to drop these people off.
That's right. I think
you're right.
So it'll be interesting because all we know is the next arc is called Post Enies Lobby, which is very,
very descriptive.
Yes. Aren't they all in the scheme of things?
Post. Enies Lobby's done. Now post.
Well, I can't wait to see where they head next. Post Enies Lobby.
Yes. Post.
And we'll see you next time on the Post. Cheers.
Cheers.